So this is your sine, cosine, tan review. I'll do a few here and there. So now we're talking about this angle here. They want us to find the angle, so you know you're going to use the inverse function. So in terms of this, from the perspective of this angle, this is the opposite side. This is the hypotenuse. And this is the adjacent side. Right? The hypotenuse is always the hypotenuse because it's opposite a 9-degree angle. Right? So here's a 9-degree angle, look, and that makes it makes the longest side, the hypotenuse. It's also the longest angle, right? The largest angle. So, and in this case, we want to find angle x, and we have information about the opposite. We have information about the hypotenuse, but we have nothing about the adjacent. So, however you remember it, it's up to you. I want to use something that has the opposite and the hypotenuse, and here's your window. So sine of x equals the hypotenuse, which is 7, over the opposite, which is 4, over the hypotenuse, which is 7. So x equals, and you can change that to a decimal if you want. It doesn't really matter. Let me put that in a calculator. Shoot. 4 over 7. Oops. And you get 34. So x, the degrees here, rounded to, it says to the whole degree, but on your test I actually want you to round to nearest hundredths. So if you wrote 35 for now, that's fine too. Okay. And again, when I upload this file, you'll see the answers in the back. So that's that. Second one, again, we're looking for angle. We have the adjacent. We have the hypotenuse. So this would be cosine of angle x equals the adjacent, which is 32, and the hypotenuse, which is 40. X equals inverse cosine 32 over 40, or if you want to simplify that, you can. So it's really up to you. Or change that to a fraction, or to a decimal, I'm sorry. You can. And we get is 36.87. I just couldn't find this file for some reason. Okay, so again, you get the drill. So again, these are finding angles. So I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to do all of them. Here's one where you have to find the side in here. So again, this is the hypotenuse, this is the opposite, and this is the adjacent, right? From the reference point of the angle on angle 54. And we want to find the opposite. So something, I want something that has a hypotenuse, the opposite, right? Hypotenuse, and the opposite would be the sine. So sine of angle 54 equals the opposite, which I don't know, over the hypotenuse, which is 15, right? So if you cross multiply, you get x 15 times sine of 54, and we are going to get what the length of measure side x there, 15 times sine of 54. Making a video. Hi.
My stuff is okay here? You don't care?
Yeah, no, I don't care. It's been here all year.
I know. Let's see if I do it.
So that gives you 12.13 or 12.14. Okay, so x, the opposite side, measures 12.14.
How about some of the translation stuff upstairs you have? Do you want to keep it? Or do you want me to like throw it out?
What the heck is that?
Like, do you have some books that are like in Spanish? They're like
Math book?
Envision 7th grade, you know.
So number 5 is we want the hypotenuse, right? So something that one of the functions that uses that has a hypotenuse and has the opposite side. So again, it'd be sine, right? The sine of 63 is the opposite over, sorry, opposite, which is this. So let me label this. Opposite, hypotenuse, right? This would be the adjacent side, and this is the angle. Well, I don't want to use the adjacent side because I don't have any information on it. So sine of 63 equals opposite, which is 10, over hypotenuse, which is x. And again, cross multiply. So this time when you cross multiply, you actually get x times sine of 63 equals 10, and then you end up dividing both sides by sine of 63. This goes away. So 10 divided by sine of 63 equals 11.22. So x equals, the hypotenuse equals 11.22. Okay. Alright, so these are relatively, they're very simple. I don't know if you have any other questions on this. Again, I don't see anything that gives you trouble. So I'll do one more. Let's pick up, well, we haven't done any tangents. So here, let's do this one. So this is the hypotenuse. Oops. This is the hypotenuse, this is the opposite side, and this is the adjacent side, right? So we have tan of 70, right? Remember, tangent is opposite, which is 30, over adjacent, which is x, right? So tangent uses opposite over adjacent, and we can go, again, if you cross multiply, you get x times tan of 70 equals 30. We're going to divide this by tan of 70, and divide the other side by tan of 70. Tangent. That goes away, and x is whatever that equals to. So we get 30 divided by, oops, 30 divided by, oh my god, 30 divided by, alright, let's try it again. 30 divided by, oh my god, and tan of 70, sorry. And you get 10.92. So the hypotenuse is 10.92 if you round it. Okay. And again, the more decimals you use, the more precise your answers. But that's that first page there. And then the back page, that's the same thing. I'm not going to do those. So here's an interesting one. I'll do 16. This one right here. We know this is 90 degrees, right? We know that's 9 degrees, and we know that's, so the hypotenuse is 7. And then this line over here, it means that this is an isosceles triangle. So this is x, and this is x, right? So if you find one, you find the other. So you could, just, it becomes simple because you don't have to find different sides. Now, let me just do it. So that's 90 degrees, and it's a isosceles triangle. It means that this angle over here and this angle here is the same. So if you do 180 minus the right angle triangle is 90, minus 90, you get 90, right? So 90 is these two angles together, and if you divide both sides, if you divide that by 2, you get that it's 4. So this guy is 45 degrees, right, the angle, and this angle here is also 45 degrees. And with that information, you can find x, right? So you can use hypotenuse, sine, or even cosine. It doesn't matter. You get the same answer. Okay, so that's that. 17 through 25. Oh my God, it's all about drawing, right? So as long as you draw it and you understand the problem, it's easy. So a ladder is leaning against a wall. So here's a wall. Wall is straight up, right? So here's your ladder. And then obviously this is the floor. So the foot of the ladder is 77.5 feet from now. So this distance right here, I'll change colors, up to here is 7.5 feet. The angle of elevation is 73, so telling you that this is 73 degrees. How high does the ladder how high up the wall does the ladder reach? So they're looking for this guy right here, right? So how tall is this from here to where the ladder hits the wall? So again, this is the hypotenuse, right? This is the adjacent, and this is the opposite. So we don't have any information on the hypotenuse. We have opposite and adjacent. So in this case, we use tangent. So tan to 7.3 equals the opposite, which is I don't know, over the adjacent, which is 7.5. Cross multiply, blah, 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 you find your answer. So basically I'll just draw it out. 18, there's a boy flying a kite out, lets a kite out 200 feet of string that makes an angle of 50. So here's the ground, here's the kite, right? So this is the angle of elevation. This is 50 degrees. Let out a string that makes, and this is 200 feet, right? The string. Find to the nearest sun how high the kite is above the ground. So they're looking for this guy. So here's your 90-degree angle. So from 50 degrees, this makes it the opposite. This is the hypotenuse, and this is the adjacent side. So obviously we're not going to use the adjacent side because we don't have any information. So you're looking for something that uses opposite and hypotenuse. So this would be sine of 50 equals the opposite, which I don't know, I'll just call it x, over the hypotenuse, which is 200. Cross multiply, you can finish the rest. 819, a guy wire attached to the top of a pole reaches a stake in the ground 16 feet from the foot of the pole and makes, okay, there's a pole, hang on a second, right, there's a pole, reaches a stake in the ground 16 feet. Here's the stake in the ground. So this, guys, is 16 feet. So try to understand 16 feet. Here is the wire from the top of the pole to the stake on the ground. And that makes an angle of 50 degrees. Find the length of the wire to the nearest degree. So let me just write that a little neater. So this is 16 feet. 16 feet, the length of the wire, which is in red, or let me change it to green. And we're looking for this. So the hypotenuse, I don't know. I know the adjacent, but I don't know the opposite. So I don't want to use anything with the opposite. So anything that has the adjacent and the hypotenuse, that would be cosine. So cosine of 50 degrees equals the adjacent, which is 16, over the hypotenuse, well, I call x. You can figure it out from there. 20. Let me see where I can draw this. So 20, the top of a 20-foot ladder touches a point on the wall 18 feet above the ground. There's no room to draw this. All right, so I'll draw it right here. Again, there's a wall, and there's a ladder. There's the ground. Draw the ladder. All right, so they're saying that this is 20. The ladder is 20 feet, touches the wall above the ground. So from here to here is 18. Find to the nearest degree the measure of the angle that the ladder makes with the wall. So this is what they're looking for. So we know the hypotenuse. We know the opposite. Adjacent, we don't know. I'm not even going to write adjacent because we're not going to use it. So something that uses the opposite and the hypotenuse would be sine. So sine of x, right? Angle that I don't know equals 18 over 20. Figure it out. 21, angle of elevation from the top of a building, from a point on the ground, 600 feet. Okay, so building, 600 feet. So here, there's something here. So from here to here, 600 feet. And there is a angle of elevation right here, and that apparently is 35 degrees. Find the height of the building. So we want this guy. So this hypotenuse, I don't know. I'm not going to write anything about it. So this is 35 degrees. The adjacent is 600. And the opposite is what I'm looking for. So something that uses opposite and adjacent, obviously, we're going to use 10. Okay. 22. Television tower. Television tower. All right, is 160 feet high, so the height is 160 feet, okay? And an observer, some guy, right here, is 120 feet, so this distance here is 120 feet. Find the height of the building to the nearest 10th. No, sorry, I'm reading 21. To the nearest degree, find the angle of the elevation of the top of the tower from the point of observation. So this is what we want. This angle here. Let's call that angle X. So we need a relationship that uses the opposite and the adjacent. So obviously this would be also 10, right? And you need to use the inverse, so you're going to be using that. Okay. Well, let's actually do this one. So we get tan of an angle X. Tan equals the opposite, which is 160, over the adjacent, which is 120. So we need angle X. We're going to use the inverse of 10. I'm going to write 160 or 16 over 12 or whatever simplified version you want to use. And we're going to get what is it, 16 over 12? 53.13 degrees. This angle here is 53.13 degrees. Okay. 23, 24, 25. So I'll just, here, I have room at the bottom. 23, a vertical pole. So here's the pole. Cast a shadow. This is 22, so the pole here measures 22. The shadow, okay, so I can make the shadow a little smaller. The shadow is 16. So, and here's the sun. Right, so we want this angle of elevation. Right, so right here. And obviously, again, you're using tangent. Same as the previous problem. Top of a cliff, here's a cliff, which is 90 feet high. The angle depression, so remember the angle depression, right? So it's going to be this angle right here. To the ground measures 40. To find the nearest 100, the distance from the object. So here's the object right here. Let's make it an X. To the base of the cliff. So we know this is 90, right? Because that's 90, this is also 90, and we want this distance over here. Right? So this distance would be this distance on top as well. So that's 90, this is X. So again, something that this is the hypotenuse, this is the adjacent, and this is the opposite. So again, this would be tan of 40 degrees equals opposite, which is 90, over the adjacent, which is X. Cross multiply, we get tan of 40 times X equals 90. We're going to divide both sides by tan of 40. And X equals 90 divided by tan of 40. Let's put that in the calculator, make sure I'm doing this okay. 90 divided by 1040, and the magic number is 107.26. Okay. Last question, 25. On top of a lighthouse, so we have a, okay, here's your lighthouse. That's your lighthouse. It's 140 feet. tall, the angle depression. Again, remember, draw a horizontal line and then draw angle depression. So this is the angle depression, and that's 24. This is the C, so let me write a little wavy thing. So that's the C. Find to the nearest 100 the distance from the boat. Oh, there's a boat here. Sorry, I didn't see a boat. Here's the boat. Find distance from the boat to the base of the lighthouse. So here's your triangle. Now, if I take that to the side, I take that triangle to the side. This is 24 degrees. Right? The height is the height of the lighthouse. Right? This is the height of the lighthouse. Well, that's 140. Right? So if this is 140, this side is also 140, and we're looking for this distance right here, right? So we're looking for that distance, and we'll call it x. So in this case, we're not so that we know we're looking for the adjacent. We have the opposite, and we don't have the hypotenuse. Right? We don't have that. So again, this is tan. So tangent of 24 equals opposite over adjacent, which is x. Let me erase this so I can get some room. We're going to get cross multiply. Tan of 24 times x equals 140. Divide both sides by tan of 24. X equals, let's figure it out, 140 divided by, where's tan? Tan, what, 120? No, 24. Enter, and it is, the boat is 314.45 feet away. Okay. And then the last group of questions. Why is this not erasing? Okay, here we go. Number 26. So here's angle A. We want tan of that tan of angle A. So tangent of angle A would be the opposite, which is this guy, 25, over the adjacent, which is, sorry, that should be 2.5. So it would be 22.5 over 2.4. Okay. Which you can just, I guess, leave it like that. Tan of angle C. So now go from this angle, figure out what the tangent is. So from that angle, tangent would be the opposite, which is 2.4, over the adjacent, which in this case is 2.5. Okay. Cosine of angle C. So again, from this side, cosine is adjacent, 2.5, over the hypotenuse, which is 3.8. Sine of angle A. So let me change colors. So from this side, sine of angle A, sine is opposite, which is 2.5, over hypotenuse, which is 3.8. Sine of angle C, from this side, what's the sine? Opposite, over hypotenuse, 3.8. And then cosine of angle A, cosine was orange, cosine from this guy, cosine would be the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And that's that.